Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs patio season. Still patio season. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
It's our final patio season episode, and the only thing we have to talk about is Mitch Marner.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Mitch hasn't left us yet. And apparently doesn't want to leave us. I don't know. So Mitch had an interview with TSN's Mark Masters that had Leafs Nation kind of divided a little bit from what we saw. And I don't know. I'll let you talk about it here. What did you take from Marner's comments?
Well, the main thing for me is it's all about him still.
Right.
I find it interesting that he is the one that can't seem to move on, and he's the one who somehow also needs more closure. Like, I don't understand that. Like, he's the one who made the decision, but he seems to be the one that still needs to kind of keep wrapping it up. And I think, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's the lack of accountability I still found from it. I mean, I did tweet or posted on X the fact that, I did feel sad for him. That's one thing that
for sure.
For a lot of people that were talking about how he presented himself, I guess, in the interview, saying it's the same old, like he doesn't like the media or talking to the media, whatever. But I actually thought that was his true self coming out. So I will give him that. That's about it. But he still wasn't. It was like that entitlement thing that I kind of got out of it a little bit, but more so the lack of accountability for the fact that he didn't get it. He didn't get it done with the team, also because it's a team game, but he didn't get it done with the team when it mattered the most. And I didn't hear any of, like, he did mention a little bit, but a lot of it was based on the fans. So, like, he kind of turned it against, it was like the fans against him.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense to me.
And, he talked about, after the Florida series and how they needed to add extra security because he had a family member saying that his address was put out there. Interestingly, Darren Ferris also gave an interview for another outlet with the exact same talking points. So obviously we're not going to condone that type of behavior from anyone. And just if someone is going to be doing something like that, then they need to be held accountable because no one should feel threatened like that.
Yeah. To me, those people are not fans. They're not Leaf fans.
No, they're not. For sure they're not.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when both he and his agent are going on separate, interviews saying basically the same things, that also seems very calculated to me. So I think it is possible that, the way he was treated after Florida loss was the last straw, and that is what cemented his decision. But I don't think it's probable that that's what made him decide to leave. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
No, it didn't. And I do think a lot of it has, over the years that he was here, the 9 years, I think a lot of it, it's a lot of the blame has to go on his family, like the people that are around him support him, because they're on social media and just feeding him all that negativity comments sort of thing, when they should be just staying away from that. And it got in his head, basically. And then, like, he mentioned how he got the mental health coach too a few seasons ago. And I mean, it probably helped him a little bit. But I don't know. I just think the family and his dad, it was that basically drove a lot of this, these negative comments to him. Because, I mean, look at William Nylander. Okay. Like, it's totally different personality, different player, but like, you don't hear anything, even Austin Matthews, you don't hear anything about his dad and anything about the family talking about all this negative comments, like about their sons. Like,
no, 100%. There is a reason why he is the only one in that group that you just mentioned that was given a tougher time by some of the fans. And he doesn't seem to see what he brings to that relationship with the fans. So was he the only one? Like, I'm sure he's not the only player in the world that's ever received death threats.
No.
We said that. If that's true, that is horrible. It's deplorable. But the last time I checked, the whole team lost, not just him. So why is it just him that is bearing the brunt of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
He brings something to that as well. Like you kind of, sometimes what you put out, you're going to get back in return in a way. So anyway, ultimately, Vegas is the perfect place for him to go because no one will care that much and he can just pretend that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll be away from the limelight, basically, right? Or somewhat, anyways. And it's gonna be different for him. Like, they play a different style of game, and and like you're saying, for the death threats, it's just insane. But I mean, it happens on other teams too. Like,
yes, it does.
Like, you reminded me about Patrick Laine getting the I guess the guy that hit him. And took him out of the Habs lineup, and they were getting death threats from the Hab fans. So it's not like it's just like fans from Toronto or someone from Toronto that this kind of thing happens. So and we don't condone that at all. Anyways, it's just those people are not fans; they're just losers.
They're not. And one thing, and somebody else brought this up, one thing that I wish that Mark Masters would have done is probed a little bit more for the other side of the equation, because it can't be that the only interactions he's had with Leaf fans has been negative. In all these years, there's never been anything positive. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
Really don't believe that. I think the majority of the interactions would have been positive.
Yeah.
So...
especially when he had a couple of seasons ago. Remember when he had that 18 or 19 game point streak or whatever?
Yeah.
The fan, we were into it. Like, it was like, we loved it. We were all going, every game that we were going to, we all wanted him to extend that point streak and keep it going. And so that was one thing that, you're right. Master should have inquired a little bit more on the positive side that way. Yeah. Because, 9 years. Yeah. It has.
And maybe he could have left with some good memories as his last interaction with the media that way. Anyway, I'm hoping that this is the last time that we discuss this person, as he is not a Leaf anymore. And I personally am done.
Yeah.
I kind of think he's going to be shocked with how quickly people forget about him here. And ultimately, for us, it's about the logo. It's about the Leafs team. It's not about one person. And that's something that I think most of us don't like, when somebody elevates themselves above the team. That's not cool with Leafs Nation. Anyway, my last thing that I will say, I never thought someone could make me love Matt Sundin, but here we are.
Oh my God, that's a big one for you, coming from Sil. Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. That's very true. Yeah. But it's time to move on now. And I agree with you too. I do think he'll be surprised at how quickly we forget about him. Right. Although he is in a lot of the records, like the Leaf records, the franchise records now, but just, we're focused on the team, on our team, and that's who we love. And he's not a part of it anymore. So, sayonara.
That's right.
See you later. Yeah.
So, as you said, time to move on from Mitch Marner and get into the team that we're going to be watching in just a few weeks. And we are so excited. So, for that, we are welcoming on our Ladies Talking Leafs insider, Mike Augello. So, without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so the cooler weather is coming, and that means hockey season is just around the corner. And to talk about the upcoming Leaf season, we welcome to the show our Ladies Talking Leafs insider, Mike Augello.
Mike covers the Leafs and the NHL as a reporter and is a member of the Professional Hockey Writers Association, Mike is the co-managing editor of HockeyHotStove.com as well, which is a new website that offers all types of hockey-related content for passionate NHL fans. You can also catch Mike on the Hockey News podcast, The Wraparound, as well. So thanks for coming on the show with us again, Mike, on this lovely summer day as we head in towards hockey season.
Yes.
Tick, 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 tick. Always a pleasure, ladies. We're a couple weeks away from prospect tournaments and about a little over a month away from the regular season. So yeah, let's get it going, folks.
Yeah, we're all dying for it, definitely. All right, so we might as well. We'll start off with Mitch Marner, of course. We'll get into the
really.
we'll get
He's the gift that keeps on giving.
We'll get into the prospects in a minute, but yeah. So we all know Mitch had his interview with Mark Masters on TSN, and what did you take from it, Mike? You might as well just get right into it here. Get your thoughts.
Well, the first word that came to mind was sniveling. Okay, like Mitch Marner, I really wish he would just sort of go away.
I was going to say that
because okay, and since the end of the second round in 2023, Marner has been sort of, first it was Marner and Nylander because there was the contract with Nylander and whether he was going to sign or whether he was going to get traded. And then once Nylander signed, Marner is going to get traded or is he going to sign? And then he has the no move clause. And then the entire last season, I mean, if I had $1 for every minute that we spent on Marner from the middle of July until he agreed to the sign and trade with Vegas. So, it would probably dominate half of our shows. But you would think for someone who says essentially, I want to move on. I'm starting a family. I'm signing an 8-year deal with Vegas. Everything is beautiful. This is a new opportunity. It was like, his dad was getting phone calls in the press conference in Vegas. Hey, Dad, shut your phone off. That he would be moving past this. But I almost get the feeling, and this is based on the fact that both he and Darren Ferris was interviewed on the John Shannon podcast. And he, in the interview with Mark Masters, and I think Mark's a good reporter. I believe it was sort of a question about the Leafs or about the situation, and Marner just went in the direction that he went. I thought that the comments, especially in regards to Leaf fans, because let's get things perfectly straight. Any idiot out there who has doxed a player, meaning they've gone out there and put their address out there or their phone number out there, they should be arrested because that's harassment. That's opening up people to, potential danger. This is somebody who was carjacked with his wife in the car. So I can understand being sensitive about that.
Yeah, but you know what, actually, Mike, too, that carjacking, apparently those people that did the carjacking, they were let go too from I guess a report in the last couple of months. My nephew was telling me this. He saw it in the news. He said that those two people too were let go because they didn't have enough evidence to charge them. So it's like, yeah, I couldn't believe that. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, right. My nephew was saying he was like, he goes, I couldn't believe it either, but apparently they don't. So it's hard to, online too, I would think it's even harder to, I guess, find people, but it is idiotic, like for somebody to actually post a person's address online. Like that's just insane. Like you would think, mind you, these days
nobody would condone that.
Yeah. You would.
Here's the direct quote. It's a little tough, obviously. We kind of dealt with it for the last 2 years in a way. The market's very passionate. They love their team. I know it. I was born and raised here, been part of Leafs Nation for a long time. But when your family's safety comes into question, especially having a new son, I don't think it's acceptable. All perfectly valid, but here's the issue. He's lumping Leafs Nation into the people who exposed his address.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, no, it's a couple idiots who put it out there. he's also making insinuations that he had to hire new security or upgraded security because of this incident. Well, Steve Simmons wrote that today in his column that the Leafs had security and they didn't deem that there was any kind of threat hit there. And Mitch Marner has had security for years. So I'm sorry, this whole thing, this comment that he's made is a bad sympathy play. And on the part of him and on the part of Darren Harrison, honestly, he's as bad at currying sympathy as he is at performing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's weak.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? For someone who said he wanted to move on, this brought it. I mean, I don't know how many people I'm saying this guy is disingenuous. This guy, he makes me sick. He has made January 23rd, folks, mark it in your books. It's going to be worse than Nassau Coliseum with Tavares. You are going to see people yelling and screaming and booing every time he touches the puck. And it didn't have to end this way, but
you think so? I don't know. There's the corporate crowd there at Scotiabank Arena.
No, I really think it will. And you know what? I have to say this. He is partially in a big portion responsible for this by the way his agent has gone with this, the way his father has manipulated him for years, and with his sort of, I mean, he's not a comfortable guy when it comes to the media. He's seems very thin-skinned. Whereas you compare him to William Nylander. This guy is so chill. And he says the right things. Like he comes out and he says something a couple days ago about, John Tavares took less to stay in Toronto, and we should all work our asses off because, this guy has given up millions to play and win a cup in Toronto. Tavares should get a standing ovation. I think it was Anthony Petrelli from Maple Leaf Hot Stove who came out and said they should give him a standing ovation at the very first game. And I completely agree with that because this guy not once but twice has taken less to stay in or to come and stay in Toronto. And William Nylander, he shows up in the playoffs, whereas the guy who used to wear number 16, he hasn't. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. And you'll be writing an article today, right? For the fans out there, our audience, you'll be writing an article on Hockey Hot Stove just to give your thoughts on this whole Mitch Marner situation.
It's pretty much going to rehash everything I just said, but it'll be in word form. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. No, and your articles are great on there. So for our audience, just check it out on hockeyhotstove.com. All right. So let's leave Mitch Marner now and go on to training camps are going to be opening up in a few weeks. And with that, you've been writing a top 40 Leafs prospect list on Hockey Hot Stove, and a few of the names.
Can you tell it's slow in August?
Yeah. But a few of the names we knew from the Marlies or their recent draft picks. But from the players you've highlighted so far, I think are you up to number 14 now? Or is it?
Or 14 or 13. Topi Niemela, who was third ranked last year, now 13th because I don't think he'll ever play, because I don't think he's ever going to play for the Leafs again.
Right.
They qualified him, but he's playing over in the SHL, so he's technically their prospect, but I don't know if he's ever going to play for them. So
who do you see out of the ones that you covered so far? Who do you see has upside that could potentially be an NHL player or attractive, maybe even like as part of a package deal of a trade? Because I think, I don't know, between like David Kampf or Calle Jarnkrok, I don't know, the Leafs have lots of forwards there in as training camp gets started. But is there someone that you can highlight in that list that you've done so far?
Well, okay, there are guys that are intriguing that I don't know a ton about, other than, first of all, Brad Treliving loves bigger players. I think that's firmly established.
Yeah.
there are some players that are coming in on NHL entry-level contracts, some players who are coming in on AHL deals. So it's basically a situation where they're trying out, they're getting an opportunity to play with the Marlies or maybe play with Cincinnati in the ECHL and sort of earn their way and earn a pro contract. I mean, even though I don't hold them in very high esteem, a guy like Justin Hall, who was a second-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks, he was an ECHL player who earned an AHL deal with the Marlies, then earned an NHL deal with the Leafs, then got to the NHL. So in a way, it was a success story until he realized he was Justin Hall. But there are intriguing players like, okay, and I'm just in terms of a guy who could eventually be, say, a fourth line NHL player, a guy like Landon Sim, who was Easton Cowan's teammate with the London Knights. Energy guy, but basically like the Energizer Bunny, runs around, hits people, not big, not monstrous size, but just like one of these guys who you can see, like, if he makes his mark in the AHL, that he could, they will love energy guys. They love guys who are crash and bang type guys. So he's one guy. A kid that they signed to an entry-level deal as a 20-year-old, Boria Vallis, was out of Prince George in the Western Hockey League, put up some big stats in the Western Hockey League, 34 goals, 81 points in 66 games. He's 6'2", 192 pounds. He played a couple games at the end of the season with the Marlies. Intriguing, but, we don't know that he was a late bloomer. Now he's 21. You have to see what exactly he is. I mean, if he scores 2 goals in 60 games, then it was a free swing, but you don't know what guys like that are going to be. Now, another guy who has taken a really big step forward is Sam McHugh, who was a 7th round pick, and had a big year. And now here's the weird thing. He has been now on 4 OHL teams in 2 years. 2 years ago, he was with Peterborough and Owen Sound.
Yeah.
And he was traded from Owen Sound to Flint because he's had really good years. He's only 19 years old. He had 36 goals in 55 games between Owen Sound and Flint. And now he got traded. I think it was Brantford he got traded to.
Yes.
So he's on his 4th team in 4 years. But this is 6'2", 191 pounds, showing some goal scoring ability. I mean, I'm not saying this guy's going to end up on the Leafs, but I'm saying he's an intriguing prospect. But as we get higher up, we're, like I said, we're in the teens right now.
Yeah,
the goalies are the ones that really intrigue me. I mean, Cade Weber, the big defenseman that they traded for a couple years ago. He could end up being a bottom pairing NHL defenseman. He's big, lanky. He's a healthy Yanni Hakanpää. He's big, he's gangly, but he's actually healthy. He's not a great skater, but he's big and he blocks shots and he gets in between the goalie and the shooter. So that's somebody who maybe down the line could end up being a 6'7" defenseman. But the goalies are the ones that intrigue me. I mean, Slava Peksa, who was number 16 on my list. Another Russian, Timothy Openstayev, which I'm probably butchering his name. You can forgive me. But these are guys like, Peksa came over to North America early. He's only had a cup of coffee with the Marlies. He's played mostly in the ECHL with the Growlers and now with Cincinnati. Now you've got 3 young goalies. You've got Tiamov, you've got Hildeby, and you've got Peksa. And now you have this Obenstayev who's still over in Russia. So you've got 4 goalies in between the ages of 19 and 23. And it's a question of, will one of these guys in a year or two be ready to take the place of Anthony Stolarz? Because he's in his early to mid 30s.
Yeah. No, for the goalies, we hope that maybe they can be the next Bobrovsky for us or something. You never know. But and I guess with Sam McHugh is the one player that that we kind of highlighted in our notes here because he won the OHL championship too with Peterborough. So, and Zach Hyman is the owner of the Bulldogs. So that's kind of good to hear. But yeah. So, anyways,
we won't make you reveal your top 10 now. So,
well, okay. I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag. Number one is Easton Cowan. I think everybody knows that. So, but I will keep everybody in suspense.
Any chance do you think that he makes the roster this year?
I think it's possible. I mean, he's going to have a great camp. I mean, they have the ability to send him to the American Hockey League this year. And I think that it would be smart to do that unless he just lights it up in training camp. He did, 2 years ago, he was great. Last year, he wasn't so good in the preseason. I think for everything he said at development camp, he thinks he's, ready for the challenge, but we'll see. And there's no harm in him going down to the American Hockey League and playing against adults and playing in his first pro season down there. And if he plays well, then you can always call him up in November or December. But I think they're going to give him a long look. And it's all a question of what Brad Treliving does between now and the beginning of the season, because I still think there's a possibility of some moves being made.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right. Well, I'm hoping for that, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's
been
for
so
sure.
Quiet. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so now that we're getting into the regular roster people, like we're kind of shifting there, we want to talk to you about a few players that we hope will have a better regular season and be difference makers for the team this year. So I'll start it off by asking you about Nick Robertson. So he's now 24. He avoided arbitration by signing a 1-year, $1.8 million contract. He did have a career high last year with 15 goals in 69 games. With the departure of who we spoke about earlier, Mitch Marner, can you see him having possibly, we would like to see a breakout season, but just at least an elevated position on the roster this year and contribute more than he had on a consistent level?
I think he's wholly capable of doing it. We know he has the offensive chops to do it. It's just a question of, first it was durability, that he couldn't stay healthy. He was not, he put himself in positions that made him vulnerable. He's only 5'9" and I think 180 pounds. He is sort of smartened up a little bit. He is feisty. He's been feistier. He is, I think, been tougher to knock off the puck than he used to be. But defensively, he still takes chances, and I don't think he's going to ever be a plus defender. I think if he can be an average defender, then it might convince Craig Berube to give him more of a top 6 opportunity. And God knows right now they have the opening to give him a top 6 opportunity, but it's a question of whether they buy into whether he's capable of doing that. Now, last year, guys like Nicolas Waugh in Vegas, I know he played with Victor Olofsson, former Sabre, who was more of a one-way type of player, sort of like Nick Robertson is. Maybe, maybe he plays on a third line with a couple guys like Dakota Joshua and Nicolas Waugh, who go out and get the puck, and he's the guy who converts. If I had to gamble and bet on where he's going to end up, I think it's probably going to be third line and probably with a guy who plays defensively to sort of cover up for his defensive inefficiencies. But, he should get an opportunity. Now, here's the interesting thing. Will he get first power play opportunity? Because right now you would think it's Morgan Rielly replacing Mitch Marner as the quarterback. Okay, so then your number one power play would be the same 4 forwards, Nyes, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander. If you decide that you want somebody if you want Nylander to replace Marner as the power play quarterback, which I don't think is likely because Nylander, as good of a passer and a playmaker is, I think he's more of the sniper, more of the guy you want on the one wing, like Matthews on the other wing. So I think that's unlikely. I honestly don't see any other option other than Morgan Rielly. And we're going to talk about Rielly in a minute, but he has to be the power play quarterback. And if that's the case, then it's probably going to be the same four forwards. But if you want to spread out your offense and have a second power play that's something that's effective, then you might maybe you could put Robertson in and move one of those other four forwards down to the second power play.
Yeah. So do you think that he's going to be a Leaf then? You think this season, you think he's going to stick with the club?
I don't foresee. I mean, right now, I think everybody in the league knows what Nick Robertson is. He's got scoring ability. You know when the Leafs can get something for him? If he scores 25 goals. If all of a sudden he scores in bunches and everybody sees he's a scoring threat and everybody, and he's a restricted free agent, and then the Leafs would have to probably spend $4 or $5 million. That's probably when they can convert him into something. But right now, he's a guy who scored in the teens, which is valuable. But he's a guy who doesn't play particularly well defensively, and he's a guy that the team that has him doesn't trust him to put him in more of a offensive role. So that speaks volumes.
Right. Yeah. And do you think does he have a potential to get in the top six? Maybe because he played with Tavares and Nylander, he had pretty good chemistry, I guess, a couple seasons ago. But or do you think Craig Berube's still gonna?
It's all a question about. I mean, because it's sort of like a it's just a mix and match right now with the top six. I mean, you've got two pairings that are definite. You've got Nyes and Matthews on one line, and Tavares and Nylander on the other line. And it's the question: who's going to be the right wing on line one, and who's going to be the left wing on line two? And I think we know who one of them is going to be, but I'm not 100% sure. And then it's a battle in training camp for who's going to fill the other slot. So it's all open.
Yeah. And that's why training camp is going to be fun. Get all these mixing and matching opportunities for Craig Berube. He's going to have some figuring out to do. But all right, let's get on to the next player we want to talk about is Max Domi. All right, so he's 30 years old, and he signed a 4-year deal last year, last offseason. And he kind of had a tough year last year, not able to really find his role in the team. He was switched. Berube kept switching him, whether it be on wing or at center. He finished the season with 8 goals, 33 points in 74 games. Where do you see Max starting the season? Do you see him on the wing with Matthews, taking Marner's spot, or do you think that he'll be somehow back at center? Because I don't think he can be at center personally, because there's Nicholas Waugh and there's Scott Lawton too, and then you have David Kampf too, right? There's just so many. Now it seems like we have down the lineup, we have a lot of centermans, but where do you think Max ends up?
I think Max Domi opens the season on the top line with Matthews and Nyes. It's the most natural fit. He's played with Matthews before when Tyler Bertuzzi was here a couple years ago. They played well together in the playoffs. I think he's a below average center. He's not good on faceoffs. He's not good defensively up the middle. Whereas I think those liabilities obviously are not at the forefront if he's playing on the wing. We know he's a very good playmaker. He's had, he had 25 assists last year. I think he had more the previous year. He just isn't a big goal scorer. And, neither was Mitch Marner. I mean, Marner would score in the 20s or 30s. And I'm not saying, Max Domi is going to seamlessly replace Mitch Marner. But I think that it's more likely that Domi, because he's a veteran, can plug in there and be effective, rather than rolling the dice and, say, playing Easton Cowan. That's putting a lot of pressure on the kid. Now, there are some people who think, and there are other options there. I still think there's a possibility, and I'll just fly by the seat of my pants here, that Jack Roslovic ends up being with the Leafs because he has not signed yet. And that's very curious because we know that there's interest. Maybe he's waiting, for a team to open up cap space for him to sign a deal for more than 1 year. That's possible. And if that's the case, then, that would make sense with the Leafs because we know, David Kampf is likely, in my mind, I think David Kampf could end up with the Marlies if he doesn't get traded. I think that they could bury.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, as you just said, Matthews, Tavares, Nicolas Waugh, and Lawton. There's your 4 centers. Where Kampf is terrible on the wing. You could play Waugh on the wing or play Lawton on the wing, but I think that goes against what Berube wants: size and snarl up the middle, and Kampf is neither. So, and I don't, clearly, I don't think he, and nothing personal, but I just don't think he likes Kampf in terms of stylistically. So, he's making $2.4 million. You could bury over 50% of that, or almost 50% of that, by sending him to Marlies. And then, if you can't trade him and you demote him to the AHL, maybe you can get rid of him at the deadline. Maybe you can, maybe you buy him out after the year. But I just don't, I don't see David Kampf on the Leafs 23-man roster. But getting back to what you were talking about, Domi, I think if you're making a bet, he's your number 1 right winger on that top line.
Yeah. Yeah, because they did have a good line with Bertuzzi, when it was Bertuzzi, Matthews, and Domi that couple of seasons ago. That they definitely had chemistry with Matthews. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the longest serving Leaf, Morgan Rielly. He's 31 years old now, going into his 13th season. He had a tough year last year, also adjusting to Berube's north-south style of hockey. He didn't get much power play time on PP1, obviously. They decided to go with the 5-forward unit. He's constantly changing his D partners, but now that, he's kind of had a little bit of extended time with Brandon Carlo since the trade deadline, maybe he's going to get a little bit more stability there. There's also been trade rumors. So do you think he remains a Leaf and has a bounce back season?
Do I think he'll remain a Leaf? Yes, because he's indicated he didn't want to go anywhere. I mean, I found the rumors about him being traded hilarious. How many times does the guy have to tell you, I don't want to go anywhere, and I've got a no-move clause? And if you got a no-move clause and he says, I don't want to go anywhere, hate to tell you, folks, he's not going anywhere. So
you think we'd learn that lesson by now?
Especially after we dealt with the crap of number 16 the last 12 months. So I'm sorry. But, okay, there's no disputing. He had a rough year last year. There's no disputing. I think it was an adjustment period. I thought he played pretty damn well after they got Brandon Carlo. You had a set pairing. Carlo is a big right shot defenseman who stays back, who covers up for Rielly when he tries to take offensive chances. They don't want him to take too many offensive chances, but that's just his game, and I think he has to adjust a little bit. But all of that being said, he had 41 points last year. He had 7 goals. He had 34 assists. He had 4 goals in the playoffs. Now, I know Game 7 was a disaster for him. Game 7 was a disaster for that entire team. They had their head up there, for the entire game, for Game 5 and Game 7. He was not alone in that and playing like that. So, you can use Morgan Rielly as sort of the touchstone for all the complaints and all the negativity about the Leafs. He had company. Honestly, he's their, people don't want to face this, and they scoff when I say this. He's their best defenseman. He's their best offensive defenseman. He's the point man on the power play. There's no getting, unless you're going out and trading for Erik Karlsson, or, you can, and I'm not this isn't Kyle Dubas, because if it was Kyle Dubas, that would be probably a legitimate rumor, because, he traded for Erik Karlsson in Pittsburgh, and supposedly wanted to bring him to Toronto. Yeah, Morgan Rielly's it. He's your number one defenseman. He's your power play quarterback. He's not going anywhere. Live with it, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think Mark Savard, though, because they had that 5-forward power play unit, because I think like Morgan Rielly has to be on the power play to, I guess, get the most out of him and his, because he skates great. Like he's a great skater. He can, I think he's a would be a good quarterback on the power play, but not Dennis Savard, Mark Savard. I'm going back a little bit with Dennis Savard.
Wow.
Mark Savard, yeah, Mark Savard was like stuck with this 5-forward power play for so long. Like, I don't know. I just I'm hoping he can like give Morgan Rielly, like give him the confidence again, like to put him back on the power play.
Well, I'll just and looking at his stats, he's had problems in odd numbered years the last few years. Like 2023 was his off year. Then he came back and he played really well 2 years ago. Then last season was an off year, so maybe he bounces back. I just think that the consistent defensive pairing with Carlo, having a left-right combo, is going to really help. Then you're obviously going to have your left-right combo with McCabe and Tanev as the shutdown pairing. And in a way, in an odd way, that's your number one pairing, because they're going to match up against the other team's best line. But Carlo is a really good defensive defenseman and a penalty killer. And Rielly, I mean, does that mean Rielly's going to play with Matthews all the time at that Matthews line? No, we know that these pairings will match up with any line at any time. It's tough to do that. I just think that he's their best defenseman. Yeah. He's been consistently their best defenseman over the last few years. They in a perfect world, on a team that was a Stanley Cup favorite, and they're not a favorite, they're a contender, but they're not a favorite, he would be a fantastic number 2. But they don't. They haven't had a number 1 since Boreas Salmi. Not Caberlet, not
Boreas Salmi.
They have not had a number 1 defenseman of the caliber that of a Stanley Cup champion caliber since Boreas Salmi. And sorry for that's what, 40 years?
Yeah, no, I know.
35, 40
crazy.
Years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh well. I don't know. We're cheering for Morgan Rielly. I still can't believe that it's his. I had to look again. Like it's his 13th season already as a Leaf. Like a lot of.
It feels
time.
like longer than that in some ways to me.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like been here since he was a kid.
Yeah.
So it just feels like he's been here for forever.
Yeah.
So
and you know what, Brian, Brian Burke was right. He was the best. He was the best player in that draft, at least at the top of the draft. If you look at the first 5 picks in that draft, that was the Nail Yakupov draft. That was Griffin Reinhart and Alex Galchenyuk. He was the best of the top picks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Where are those guys now?
Yeah.
Well, I think Yakupov, Ryan Murray's in Yakupov, I think, is in the KHL. I mean, I'm pretty sure. He's in the KHL. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh, well, that's no. We definitely made the right decision there to take Morgan Rielly. So, that's hoping that he does have the bounce back season. But one player you mentioned to me off the air, one player you think will be a difference maker for the Leafs is a new addition. That's forward Matias Maccelli, 24 years old, going into the final year of his contract. So how do you, why are you so high on this Matias Maccelli?
Well, okay, I'm not high on him. What I'm saying is I think he's the key, or he's a
okay.
Because 2 years ago, he had 40 assists. The year before that, he had 38 assists. He was an member of the all-rookie team. This is somebody, a very good playmaker. And he had an off year moving from Arizona to Utah. He didn't seem to fit on any line there. It was a situation where he was being paid over $3 million. They didn't think it was a good fit. So they essentially not gave him away. They got a 3rd round pick for him. But I mean, here's the situation. Now he's a left winger. And the funny thing is, and I don't get it, a lot of the projections say, oh, Maccelli's going to play the right side on the number 1 line. He's a left winger. He's a left shot. Why would you put him on his off? That's a recipe for failure, to put him on his off wing on a top line, because he's a playmaker and he's your best chance to replace Mitch Marner. Well, no, it's not. I think that's dumb. I think where he fits is on the second line with Tavares and Nylander. I think he's a left winger. I think that would take a little bit of pressure off of him, but that's a scoring line that's going to be extremely important for the Leafs. John Tavares scored 38 goals last year. William Nylander scored over 40 goals. Could have a decent chance at scoring 50 this year if Maccelli gets back to his sort of 40 assists, that level. And I think that's very possible. Now he's not a strong defender either, but his defense is his offense, is his ability to generate scoring opportunities. And when you have 2 scorers like Tavares and Nylander on that line, then you're not going to worry too much about him playing in his own zone. So I think he's extremely important. If he is effective, then I think your challenges in terms of fitting that other hole in the top 6 that we talked about, whether it be Cowan, whether it be Domi, whether it be Roslovic, if they sign him, then they take care of themselves. If you have 2 holes on your top 2 lines, then you're in deep trouble. And I don't know if there are any answers in terms of, Bobby McMahon, Nick Robertson. I don't think Dakota Joshua is a top 6 forward.
No.
Kalle Jarnkrok, I don't think can keep up with the pace. So I think there's some pressure on Maccelli to produce and to be what he was a few years ago. And if he does, then I think things sort of fall more into place. And if he doesn't, then I think the Leafs have some challenges. Yeah,
I did hear, I believe it was on the Sportsnet JD Bunkus podcast. I heard him speaking with a former Arizona management person, and he was very very complimentary of Maccelli and the way he plays. He plays a lot down, I guess, below the faceoff dot. So even though he's not a huge guy, he likes to get in there, and like you said, with the playmaking abilities. So that it got me excited for it, like to see what he brings to our lineup.
I think I thought at the very moment that they made that trade that it was an excellent gamble, because if it doesn't work, you don't have to qualify him next year. He's making I think it's $3.4 million. You could simply say, okay, this didn't work out. We don't qualify him. He walks away, or you flip him someplace else. Somebody who wants to give him another opportunity someplace else. But it's a free swing in a sense. Now they obviously believe in him, and I think the influence of Shane Doan, who was part of the Arizona organization, had a lot to do with the acquisition of him. And if it doesn't work out, then we know Treliving never hesitates to be in the trade market, and then we'll just hear more of those trade rumors at the beginning of the season. Whereas I think we're definitely going to hear them at the deadline.
Yeah, it seems to me like all the names that you're just rhyming off there, definitely something's going to have to give, because we've got like a lot of kind of plugs that will have like no place, no spot. So it's just going to be a really, really interesting training camp. That's for sure. So anyways, thanks, Mike, for joining us today. It's always interesting to get your insights on these things. Everybody, Hockey fans, be sure to check out hockeyhotstove.com to keep up to date on the Leafs with Mike's reports. There's also a podcast section there where you can hear more of Mike's views on Off the Post podcast. And of course, Ladies Talking Leafs is there as well. If you don't follow Mike on X, make sure that you do. At Mike in Buffalo is his handle, and also on Hockey Hot Stove, which is at Hockey H Stove. Thanks, Mike. And we will be talking to you again soon, I'm sure, once things get underway with the season.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mike. All right. Thanks again to Mike for coming on the show. I found his with his prospect list, the top 40 that he's doing with the Leafs. I thought it was interesting. Some of the players that he mentioned, the one guy, Landon Sim, which I didn't know anything about before he mentioned him. But yeah, no, it's cool. He played with Easton Cowan on the London Knights, and I guess he was originally drafted by St. Louis, so he does have some connection from 2022 St. Louis Blues with Craig Berube being the coach, although he never obviously didn't get on the team and didn't resign with them, or he didn't sign with them. But that's somebody to look out for. He's a center as well. And then the other player that I had highlighted was that Sam McHugh. He's been talked about a lot, and like Mike mentioned, how he's shifted around a little bit in the OHL. But yeah, we need these fresh faces coming in down the pipeline, or like seeing them in the upcoming training camp, seeing a few of them. So that's that's what I like talking about. Other than I did enjoy Mike's comments about Mitch Marner as well, I have to say. Right? He always brings it when it comes to those things. And make sure to our audience, make sure you check out Mike's blog for that, for his written version of that, of what he brought on our pod.
Yeah, so you're going to be able, you can find that, as we mentioned earlier, at hockeyhotstove.com. And you can also find our show there in the podcast section of the website as well.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to share this special bag of items. I'm just going to grab it here. I haven't actually looked in the bag yet. So this is it's quite interesting, actually, because I found this in my mom's basement, and it is a Leaf Sport bag. I don't know if our people on YouTube, if you can see it here, but it says the 1992-93 dream season. So this was the dream season for Sil and I, especially too, right? And just, and I haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to look in through it and see if there's going to be anything in particular that's of interest. I'm sure there will be, to share on our first episode. It's probably going to be in mid-October, because we want to celebrate we want to celebrate the opening of the season. So I'm sure there'll be something in here that'll be good. And actually, it's from Leaf Sport. I don't know if anybody there in our audience has been to Leaf or remembers Leaf Sport at Maple Leaf Gardens, or even before that, because I did a little bit of research, because I remembered Leaf Sport was named Doug Laurie, or like I'd had another name. And when I was a kid, I used to go down to Doug Laurie's sporting goods store at Maple Leaf Gardens to buy all these good like t-shirts and all this Leaf memorabilia. It was a great place to buy stuff. So for our next episode, we will be going into season 7 of Ladies Talking Leafs. So hit that follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening to our podcast, and we'll have you up to date on Leafs throughout the season. And if you want to see what's maybe an interesting item in that bag, make sure you hit that follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and you can also find us on the Believe Network at Believe.com. And we'd love to hear from you too. So yeah, leave us a comment if you have been to Leaf Sport. We'd like to know. And be sure to leave us a rating or review too. Feedback from our listeners is so important, and we thank you for taking the time. And of course, as always, a reminder to listeners on Spotify, we have a poll question for every show. And with a simple tap, you can let us know what you think of the show. 5 stars, hopefully.
All right. And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there. And if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?